Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast today. NATO has just launched a massive search operation across the North Sea, but what exactly are they looking for? British submarine hunting aircraft, American refueling tankers, and NATO warships are now flooding the Arctic skies amid growing fears of increased Russian submarine activity near Europe's northern flank. But here's the real question. Did NATO detect something they're not fully revealing yet? Quick cuts. Russian submarines, P-8 Poseidon aircraft, Arctic waters, NATO jets scrambling. In this video, we'll break down the escalating cat-and-mouse game unfolding beneath the North Atlantic, why military tensions are rising fast near Norway and the Arctic Circle, and what this could mean for NATO and Russia moving forward. If you enjoy high-stakes military analysis and geopolitical updates, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next major development. And now I want to hear your opinion. Do you think NATO is reacting to a real underwater threat? Or is this a show of force aimed directly at Moscow? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and the best insights often come from this community. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so to really grasp the sheer scale of what you just laid out, we need to, I guess, establish a baseline first.
Right.
Because the latest news confirms that all this rapid escalation is happening in a very specific, heavily monitored stretch of ocean. Basically, the waters between Svalbard, northern Norway, and Iceland.
Okay, the whole Arctic Gateway.
Exactly. And, the goal for our deep dive today is just to impartially map out these deployments. We're not taking sides here. We're just looking at the hardware, tracking the movements, and figuring out what these geostrategic shifts actually mean for the Arctic right now.
Right, because, they're calling this operation Dynamic Mongoose, which frankly sounds like, I don't know, a cheesy 1980s action movie.
Yeah, it really does.
But the hardware they are actually rolling out is, well, it's completely 21st century. If we look at the deployment logs from just this week, the scale is honestly pretty staggering.
Oh, absolutely.
Like for day 2 operations over the North Sea, you've got these British P-8 Poseidons partnered up with American refueling tankers, just executing this massive continuous dragnet.
Right, and we should probably clarify what a P-8 Poseidon actually is, because it's not just a standard plane.
Right, it's practically a flying supercomputer, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a dedicated maritime patrol aircraft. What it does is it drops this highly complex web of what are called sonobuoys down into the ocean.
Okay.
And those are just localized acoustic sensors that are literally listening for the very, very specific acoustic signature of a Russian submarine. And, the American refueling tankers are there, so those P-8s basically never have to land.
Wow, so they just stay up there indefinitely.
Exactly. It creates this unbroken net of surveillance.
So if I'm picturing this right, hunting a stealth sub in the North Sea is, it's kind of like trying to find a specific black car driving with its headlights off in a massive unlit park lot.
Yeah.
And you're trying to find it using only like a stethoscope pressed against the asphalt.
That is actually a perfect way to visualize it. Because, you're dealing with acoustic dominance. Modern naval warfare out there isn't really about who has the biggest guns anymore.
Right.
It's almost entirely about who can hear the other guy first without being heard themselves. Mm-hmm. And that air component we just talked about, that's really only half the equation.
Right, because there's the whole surface fleet, too.
Exactly. The latest info highlights this massive naval presence rolling in to support the dragnet. Like we just saw the arrival of the HMS Prince of Wales.
Which is huge.
Oh, it's a 65,000-ton aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Fully loaded with F-35B fighter jets, anti-submarine helicopters, the works. It just pulled into Stavanger for Norwegian coastal training.
Wow. And it's sailing alongside the destroyer HMS Duncan, too, right?
Yeah, it is.
And, Commander James Mitchell put out a really direct statement about that group, basically saying this deployment delivers a clear signal of commitment to securing Europe's northern flank. But wait, hold on a second. Because Dynamic Mongoose is officially just an anti-submarine warfare exercise, like it's scheduled from May 18 to May 29.
Officially, yes.
But with a 65,000-ton carrier and these round-the-clock sub-hunters in the sky, are we really just pretending this is practice?
Yeah.
Like, isn't this basically like setting up a massive burglar alarm system when you already know the burglar is walking around inside the house? Doesn't the sheer volume of this high-end stuff suggest NATO is maybe using a scheduled exercise to, I don't know, actively hunt a real unannounced deployment?
So when you look at how real-time military strategy actually functions, Exercises of this magnitude almost always serve a dual purpose.
I say it's a two birds, one stone situation.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
They get the logistical training done, which is essential.
Yeah.
But they also offer this incredibly convenient operational cover. It lets you flood a highly contested zone with top-tier sensors without technically escalating things.
Oh, because you can just say, hey, we're just running an exercise.
Exactly. You bring British, Norwegian, and US P-8 Poseidons into the air together. And they're operating out of this, geographic triangle of bases, right?
Yeah.
You've got Keflavik in Iceland, Avines and Gardermoen in Norway, and Lossiemouth over in the UK.
That covers a massive area.
Right, you're effectively closing off the entire North Atlantic gateway. It establishes a surveillance choke point, entirely under the umbrella of a pre-planned exercise.
And just to add to that, the recent updates show there's a totally separate British Rivet joint reconnaissance flight, too.
Oh, right, the Baltic flight.
Yeah, it's actively tracking Russian force concentrations near the Baltic. And, well, the public updates haven't completely clarified what's going on with that specific mission yet.
No, they haven't.
But it kind of proves they're monitoring everything, everywhere, all at once right now. But I keep coming back to the carrier. Dropping a 65,000-ton carrier into the North Sea just doesn't make sense if you're only hunting like a standard patrol sub,
It really doesn't.
If NATO is bringing out the sledgehammer, there must be something pretty serious hiding in the dark.
Precisely. You don't deploy that level of infrastructure unless the target completely warrants it. And this actually brings us to the core asymmetry in the Arctic right now, which is Russia's submarine strategy.
Right.
Because if you look at the Russian military today, their ground forces are, they've been severely depleted by over a decade of war in Ukraine.
Yeah, they've taken massive hits on land.
But their Navy's submarine fleet, that has gone in the exact opposite direction. They've really advanced. We are talking about incredibly stealthy, heavily armed, multi-role submarines.
And they sail directly out of the Kola Peninsula, right?
Yeah, straight from the Northern Fleet bases on the Kola Peninsula. They can just slip right into the North Atlantic.
And, the rhetoric surrounding all this has gotten so much darker. The latest info points out that since 2022, the Kremlin has been using much more aggressive language.
Extremely aggressive, yeah.
Lots of coercive nuclear threats, intense anti-Western narratives. They're explicitly calling Europe the new enemy that's threatening traditional Russian values.
Perfect.
And if you're listening right now and wondering, why does a submarine near Norway even matter to me? Well, consider that these vessels are operating near some of the most critical maritime shipping and communication routes in the entire world.
Yeah, it's a textbook geostrategic reallocation of weight.
What do I mean by that?
Well, when a nation's conventional ground forces are tied up or, depleted, their military doctrine dictates that they have to lean heavily on whatever intact strategic deterrence they have left, just to maintain their global posture.
I see.
So in this case, that deterrent is their advanced subfleet. They're compensating for vulnerabilities on the ground with high-end asymmetric naval capabilities.
So it's literally like a boxer who has a broken right hand. So they just start throwing these massive, unpredictable left hooks to keep you backing up.
Exactly. It's all about projecting an outsized threat to keep NATO off balance.
Okay, but does leaning on the submarine fleet like this actually make the North Atlantic more dangerous today than, say, a couple of years ago?
Without a doubt.
Because, a sub's whole job is to be invisible, right? If they're relying on an invisible fleet to project power, doesn't that just massively increase the risk of someone making a catastrophic miscalculation?
It does. It completely rewrites the calculus of deterrence in the region. Because, like you said, the whole strategic value of a sub is the uncertainty.
You can see it.
You don't know its depth, you don't know its trajectory, and you definitely don't know what its payload is targeting. So when you make that invisible platform your primary tool for signaling, you force your adversary, in this case NATO, to deploy these massive, incredibly expensive dragnets.
Just to figure out what's even going on.
Exactly, just to establish a basic baseline of situational awareness. It turns the waters off Norway into this permanent, high-stakes guessing game.
Yeah.
And the cost of guessing wrong is, it's catastrophic.
And the tension isn't just underwater anymore either. It's literally spilling into the skies.
Yeah, it really is.
We actually have concrete, measurable proof of this cat-and-mouse game exploding in the airspace right above Norway.
Yeah, the recent numbers are crazy.
Right. Vice Admiral Rune Andersen from the Norwegian Joint Headquarters shared some of the last updates, and he said Russian surveillance planes heading into the Norwegian Sea are just a daily sight now.
And they're flying out of the Severomorsk 1 airfield, right up there on the Kola Peninsula.
Yeah, but it's the statistics tied to those flights that are just mind-blowing. Like Norwegian F-35s scrambling from the Evans Air Station, they've been activated 39 times already this year.
Wow.
They've identified 51 Russian aircraft operating right outside northern Norway. And look, we're barely 5 months into the year, and that number of scrambles already matches the entire total recorded for the whole year of 2025.
It's an unprecedented compression of activity.
Wait, hold on a second. If we've scrambled F-35s 39 times in just a few months, at what point does that stop being a deterrent and start becoming like a massive drain on our resources?
Well, that's exactly the point.
Like, imagine being on radar duty in northern Norway right now. The frequency is accelerating so fast, the crews on standby have to be completely exhausted.
Yeah, and that physical and logistical fatigue, that is very often an intentional part of the strategy.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Constant incursions force the responding nation to just burn through flight hours, burn through maintenance cycles, and test pilot endurance. It lets them map out your radar blind spots and test your response times.
So they're just wearing us down.
Basically. But more importantly, it normalizes this constant state of high alert, which ironically makes it so much harder to distinguish a routine surveillance flight from an actual imminent threat.
Wow. Which perfectly sets up that April 30 incident because that was definitely not a routine flight.
No, it was not.
So on April 30, two Russian Tu-95 MS bombers flew west over the Barents Sea into international airspace right off Norway.
Right.
And crucially, one of those bombers was visibly armed with a live KH-101 long-range cruise missile.
Yeah.
Which is the exact type of missile they frequently launch at targets in Ukraine. Now wait, flying surveillance planes to test radar is one thing, but strapping a live KH-101 cruise missile to the wing of a bomber and flying it right up to the edge of Norwegian airspace.
It's a completely different level.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this impartially, is that considered standard surveillance or is that a direct coercive message?
Oh, it is definitively categorized as coercive signaling.
Okay, I figured.
Yeah, you do not need to carry a KH-101 cruise missile to gather electronic intelligence or to monitor NATO naval movements. Standard surveillance just relies on internal sensors and cameras.
Right, you don't need a live bomb for that.
Exactly. Bringing that specific munition, which, again, is a live weapon currently being used in an active conflict, right to the edge of NATO airspace, is a deliberate visual broadcast.
So they want us to see.
They absolutely want NATO to see it. It's designed to remind the alliance of the destructive reach those aircraft actually have. And it forces the Norwegian F-35 pilots, and really the whole NATO command structure, to treat every single flight as a potential kinetic threat, not just a routine patrol.
Wow. Okay, so if we synthesize all these moving parts today, you've got this massive Russian subfleet pushing out from the Kola Peninsula into critical maritime routes using the ultimate acoustic stealth.
Right.
You've got Tu-95 MS bombers armed with live cruise missiles testing the airspace basically every day.
Yeah.
And in response, NATO has dropped this absolute fortress of hardware, 65,000-ton carriers, destroyers, continuous webs of P-8 Poseidon sonobuoys right into the North Sea under the banner of dynamic Mongoose.
Exactly. When you strip away the official exercise titles, the reality of the last info is super clear. We are witnessing a phenomenally dense concentration of highly advanced military assets from both sides, all just squeezed into this very narrow corridor of the North Atlantic.
It's a powder keg.
It really is. The friction in this region isn't theoretical anymore. It is actively measurable every single day. The baseline of military activity in the Arctic has honestly permanently shifted upward.
And that leaves you, our listener, with a really provocative thought to ponder. As NATO's massive dynamic Mongoose exercise officially wraps up on May 29, what actually happens next?
Yeah, that's the big question.
All those British, Norwegian, and American P-8 Poseidons and F-35 simply pack up and return to a normal, quiet standby status? Or will this new, heightened readiness posture silently become the permanent, everyday reality in the freezing waters of the Arctic? Thank you, everyone, for listening or watching today. I invite you to listen to our other podcasts for more high-stakes geostrategic analysis. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.